Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and you're about to watch me interviewing one ENFP instead of two this time. Which, you'd think I'd have more of that, but apparently ENFPs really like each other as romantic partners. So I wanted to give a quick apology before we get into our interview because there's a couple of things you need to know in case you're a stickler for quality. You have no idea how many people have told me I need to get a better microphone and a better webcam, which I do right now. So first off, this is the season of Lent for us Catholics, so one of the things that I tried giving up was looking in the mirror. So you'll notice that I look significantly more haggard than normal. So I apologize for looking like a hobo, but at least there won't be any weird comments saying that I'm transgender or a girl this time, because you can't really mistake a girl for what I'm about to look like. And the second thing is that while the audio turned out magnificently, in my opinion, I mean, this is a professional microphone, I think the picture quality was the opposite of what we intended. We thought that because there was light behind us, that would therefore be better because, it was light coming in. But because I have mild undiagnosed dyslexia, I think my mind was thinking the other way around, how we should have been facing the light instead. And this was also the first time I had used my webcam outside of in this bedroom, so it was a bit of an experimental process for us. So if you can't see her that well, I apologize. It's a testing ground. We will get better over time. But I just hope that regardless of our technical mistakes, you will still enjoy the interview. I think she has a lot of great things to say. And if the image quality really bothers you enough, you can just watch the video blindfolded. I mean, my entire ENTJ interaction video was done with a pillow over the webcam because she was afraid of seeing her face. So I can be a little bit picky about my face too. So with that, again, please enjoy it. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and don't lock your keys in your locker like some ENFPs do. That can be disastrous. Enjoy! Good afternoon, my audience. This is Paul, and this is my friend Allison.
Hi!
And we're going to do another Myers-Briggs interview. I am an ISTJ, and she is
An ENFP!
a nice, bubbly one at that, too. This is actually the first time I've interviewed an ENFP by herself. Although you do have a boyfriend, right?
I do. Yes, I actually just asked him. He said he's an INTP.
Oh, man. Good luck with that one. So, I'm sure you know by now that ENFPs are known as one of the most easygoing, bubbly, excitable types. Would you say that fits you pretty well?
Yes, it does.
Would you say there are ever times when you, take life more seriously?
Yes. I guess in the definition of what do you mean take life more seriously, in what aspect?
Well, most ENFPs are known for, say, they laugh about things a lot, or they tend to forget stuff, or remember today you were like, shoot, I forgot to fill up the gas in my car, and then you just laugh it off and say, oh well, I'll do it another day.
Yes, I would say both of those are great descriptors for who I am. I really wholeheartedly believe the thing, laughter is the best medicine. I am always laughing. I crack a lot of jokes, especially if I feel like there's a lot of tension, I feel like I'll try joking and try making jokes to break the tension. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, I get out of that situation because I'm easily uncomfortable, so I'm like, well, time to go.
What kind of jokes do you like to tell?
It really depends. A lot of them are situational. They might depend on the moment, or I might make a joke about the atmosphere, or I might, I don't know, my jokes are really silly. I don't like making jokes that make fun of other people. I think that's just not in good taste. I like making what are called dad jokes, really bad puns. I think those are really funny. Not all people think they're funny, but that's okay. I think they're funny nonetheless. People have their opinions, and that's fine.
That they do.
That they do.
Yeah, most of my jokes are making fun of a person enough if I know them.
Yeah.
Or making them realize that I'm the type of person that I tend to notice everything. And notice that it's funny. So I might say Wow, you are such a klutz today.
I mean, yes.
I wasn't saying
Yes.
that to you particularly.
Well, I was like, well, that still pertains to
I mean, you
who
actually
I
showed
am.
up early to a hangout for once.
See, sometimes I am on time, sometimes I am not, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
your type is generally not known for being punctual.
I would say I'm typically punctual, but then again, I have a lot of friends who are super not punctual, so I guess that juxtaposition makes me look more put together than I actually am. It really depends.
So you're basically trying to save face then?
For what?
Like, you're basically trying not to be as unpunctual as they are, so you therefore make an
Yes.
effort to make yourself more punctual.
Yes.
So
Although
before we get into the functions,
Yes.
because most of the audience, they really like the functions, so we're going to talk about mistyping for a little bit. So when I first met you, you thought you were, what was it, ESFJ?
I think it was ESFJ, yeah.
So what made you think that you were that, and what made you come to the realization that you were actually ENFP?
I'm not even going to lie. When I took my first Myers-Briggs test, I think it was in high school, and I got an ESFJ, but then I started taking them more, and the more I took them, I got ENFP, and I quite honestly, that was the one I just kept getting. So I think I might have maybe not answered fully truthfully maybe the first time around, or I didn't know exactly how to answer, but then when I really sat down and thought about it, it came out more. I was getting ENFP consistently. I was like, okay, this makes more sense.
Well, I definitely didn't take you as a J for a minute when I first met you. You seemed like so kind of all over the place. J's usually have their life put together a little bit more.
Okay, I have my life put together. I just don't necessarily portray that, I suppose.
See.
It's when people learn more about me, they think... I don't even take it to offense because I've gotten it so many times when people say, I didn't think that about you. Like when I tell people, hey, I'm kind of smart, they go, I'm not gonna lie, no offense, I didn't get that from you. And I go, yep, sometimes that happens. That's quite alright.
Well, that is actually a stereotype of ENFPs, is typically people think that they're just a bunch of bumbling idiots at first, and then as they get to know them, they realize, like, dang, you've got a lot of hidden knowledge. So do you think that after you discovered that you were ENFP, do you think that fit you more accurately, or do you think you kind of just were going with it? Did you, like, read the descriptions or anything like that?
Only a couple. If I'm correct, because this was a while ago I took this, are ENFP the people who, the people in the spotlight? Is that
Well, it's
the
more of the
ENFPs?
ESFP, because ESFPs are about in the moment,
Okay.
whereas ENFPs are more imaginative, like, future-oriented people.
Yes. Okay. That one, I think also, too, that makes more sense to me than the in-the-moment type person, because I also like to have things planned out. I'm not one to be spontaneous. I'm not actually a big fan of spontaneity. When having things planned out makes me feel more comfortable, but yes, I would say I'm a very creative, imaginative person as well.
Well, from what I heard, ENFPs generally are okay with plans if other people are the ones making them. Usually they prefer to sort of follow the plan as opposed to
I
making
will
them.
say I'm a super indecisive person. Like, I'm that person where they say, where would you like to eat? And I go, I don't know, where would you like to eat? And then it's just kind of a conversation we have for the next 30 minutes about where do we go eat.
And that's where you get the censors like me who just say, we're going to Little Caesars, and then
We're
you say,
going
okay.
we're getting crazy bread and we're getting a hot and ready, and that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, because intuitives like to figure out all of the options, and sometimes they have a trouble, like, putting those options into one answer, whereas sensors are usually they only think of one option.
I was gonna say, I'm definitely that person when I can't think of somewhere to go. I'm like, okay, let's be logical, so I'll start pulling up places, then I say, okay, choose a place from this list, because I still can't decide.
Well, that's actually a pretty good segue into the next question I was going to ask you. So, now we're going to move on to the function stack. Do you know what that is?
I'm gonna be honest, I do not.
So the function stack is basically where it talks about like your dominant strengths, and then it goes down to like your weaknesses. So for the two of us, we actually have the same functions but in opposite order.
Yeah.
So like where I'm strong, you're weak, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So your dominant function is extroverted intuition, which is all about like seeing the connections between like everything,
Yeah.
even if it's seemingly random.
Yeah.
And so a lot of ENFPs are told like, where did that thought come from? Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty funny, actually. I resonate with that a lot. I get really, something I'm really proud of is, especially working with kids, there's a lot of, I would call it thinking on my feet, and I kind of get really proud of the fact that I handle, random wild situations very well, and I'm able to like deal with crazy things and say things like, wow, what, like say for example a kid's doing something they clearly shouldn't, I'm like, wow, what an interesting thing that we shouldn't do, what if this other activity comes into mind? I'm very good at diverting kids from things they shouldn't be doing and say, wow, look at the time, it looks like we should be doing this instead, and kind of just closing up whatever thing they're doing they shouldn't be doing, just throwing them into something else.
So the saying, women have brains like a bowl of spaghetti, would you say that that fits you pretty accurately?
I have no idea what that means.
Basically, like, your thoughts are all over the place as opposed to being compartmentalized, like mine, where, like, everything has its place, and I tend to, like, be really good with numbers and facts and information, whereas ENFPs kind of, like, pull their information from, like, seemingly out of a hat as opposed to keeping it tucked in them. Your type tends to also be the most forgetful of all the types.
I would say my one side of my brain is spaghetti and the other side is compartmentalized. Is that an okay answer? Because I feel like, yes, I pull things out of a hat, but I feel like, too, I'm genuinely okay at knowing things when it comes to the situation.
Well, once we get to the third function that you have, that's when that answer will make more sense.
Okay.
So before we get into the next function, one of the things you were like 100% confident of the moment we met is that you were dead set sure that you were definitely an extrovert and not an introvert, which is odd because most ENFPs tend to think that they're introverts, whereas you were like, no, there's no way I'm an introvert. So can you tell the audience, like, what made you so certain that you were extroverted?
Well, I can still tell you, I'm an extrovert 100% of the time. I definitely find that the days that I have something to do, especially with socialization, are the days that I just feel more energetic and ready for the day. I do not do well by myself. I like reading books, doing art, but even doing that, there's something in me that like really winds down if I'm not interacting with other people. I've never had it down my mind that I've been extroverted because my favorite things to do are basically things where I'm just surrounded by a copious amount of people.
So like, you're more of like a big group type of person than a small group?
I mean, it depends on the setting, but I would say if I had the choice, I do like big group settings. I think they can be really fun with a lot of opportunities to meet new people and talk about things. But I do like small settings too. I just like being around people in general. But that's why I would say things like camp is one of my favorite places to be because there's so many people.
So this type of hangout, this is okay, right?
Yeah. This is still social interaction. So this is very much so like, I'm in my energetic mood, and then after this I have rehearsal, so I'm around more people too, and I'm like, wow, look at this, interacting with people. It's been a productive day.
Usually like introverts are the ones that like the one-on-one time, and extroverts are the ones that complain about that because they're like, I want large groups of people.
I mean, I guess in a sense I do like larger groups of people, but at the same time I feel like even just one-on-one with someone, it's like a good opportunity to learn a lot of things and to interact and just learn more about yourself. And
so you basically just continue, you like to continue learning, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to think I was
Search for knowledge.
Yeah, I used to think I was an extrovert because I like to talk a lot, but it turns out that's not even the same definition. Extroversion just means you prefer being around people to regain your energy. Introversion just means you prefer to stay alone. But, like, once an introvert is done recharging, it's like a phone. You don't keep it in its charger forever.
Yeah.
You eventually have to take it out and go do something. So for me, it's like usually by the nighttime. Sorry if I keep fidgeting. I'm still getting used to this new microphone. Basically, by the nighttime is when I've had, like, 4, 5, 6 hours to think. And then it's like, okay, time to put that thinking time to use.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into the second function, which is where you and I slightly differ here.
Okay.
Because my dominant function is introverted sensing, which is a take in.
Okay.
And then followed by extroverted thinking, which is talk later.
Okay.
You, on the other hand, have introverted feeling as your secondary function, which means, like, after you've finished, like, gathering all of these ideas,
Yeah.
then you tend to, like, when you actually do have alone time, you tend to think about it and say, like, was that really the best decision? Does that fit in with, like, my moral standards? Would you say that that's pretty accurate?
Yes. I've always said that I'm the type of person who needs to think more before speaking, because sometimes I feel like I'm speaking just to fill the room and not speaking to make a point, which is sometimes something I get mad at myself for, because I think that's another reason why people sometimes have the perception of me that I don't have as many potentials that I actually do, because what I do say sometimes is kind of just meaningless and really just, it doesn't really further anything. And that's something I want to do more so, because sometimes I do notice I'll say some things to people, like, and afterwards I'll say, wow, that was, one, not what I wanted to say, and two, I think that was taken the wrong way, because I don't put 2 and 2 together before I go for it. I'm just like, wow, what a great thought, go. And that's kind of how my brain functions.
And I think that's why you mistyped yourself as an S, because S's tend to think in the moment.
Yeah.
Not necessarily long term.
Yeah.
So because it's introverted feeling and not introverted thinking, you're more likely to go with how you personally feel about it as opposed to, like, how you personally think about it, correct?
Yeah.
Like, would you say that you're more emotional or more rational?
I would say that's a hard question for me, because I would say I am more rational or more emotional depending on the circumstance.
Well, no one's 100% or the other.
Yeah, obviously.
But ENFPs are known for being among the slightly more mellow of the emotional types, because it's only your second function.
Yeah.
So that means you're going to be doing all that idealizing first, and then you're going to be feeling. So,
Yeah.
like, when you're around, say, an INFP, you might find them a bit overdramatic.
Yeah, I would say that I, especially when I'm, like, very energetic, I can seem to be overdramatic or very emotional, but I have come to, especially working in psych, become more rational and try to have my emotions take a kind of, like, step back, because I realize if I let my emotions take control of my situation that I'm in quite a lot of stressful situations, that it would just be overload in processing, and I would just be very upset and get upset so quickly, and I realize I can't let myself do that. So kind of as I've matured, I've become a lot more rational than I have emotional, and kind of thinking more so, like, I do feel this, but also I need to take other people into account and the situation at hand, and not let these feelings get in the way of how I handle the situation.
It seems like the total opposite of what I had to go through, because, like, our function stack is actually pretty close when it comes to logic and feeling. Mine is just like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to learn that it was okay to be emotional.
Yeah.
And not have to, like, put on a stoic front all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it's introverted feeling, that means that your type is likely to not be as bodily expressive or empathetic as the extroverted feeling types. I remember, I'm actually going to answer this before she does. We went on a mission trip together. That's actually how we first became friends. And she, I don't know if you still do, but, like, at the time, you had really droopy eyes. And I would always say, like, what's the matter? And you'd be like, nothing's the matter. That's just how I look.
I was just having the same conversation with someone because whenever people ask me, "Are you okay?" I just say it's my eyebrows because my blank expression is that of worry, and everyone thinks like something's wrong with me, and I'm like, "No, this is just my blank expression, and my eyebrows naturally furrow." Oh my god, I get that all the time. It's so funny. That actually 2 days ago at work, 3 different people brought it up on the shift, and they're like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just great. My eyebrows, you know."
Well, God gave them and all of us, right? Some just grow differently than others.
Yeah, I'm like, at least I don't have the resting angry face. Mine's just that of worry. So instead of people being scared of me, I guess they're just concerned for my well-being.
Yeah, so I take it that also means, like, are you, like, very aware of what's going on the inside? Like, if someone hurts your feelings, you have to, like, think about it? Or is it pretty obvious to tell, like, I am offended right now?
I would say I'm definitely working on not showing my feelings, but unfortunately, like I said, my eyebrows have a mind of their own, and I'm a very expressive person, so if someone affects how I'm feeling, I wish I wasn't this way, but it's pretty obvious by the way I react. Like, if someone were to make fun of me, which I work with teenagers all day, they can sometimes be kind of mean, and I know I'm older than them, but that doesn't change the fact that sometimes it can hurt my feelings, and I will show that outwardly. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't, because I'm like, I don't want to let them know they have the upper hand, and then I'm legitimately hurt by what they said. But
Well, are you any good at detecting how other people feel? Like, I know your type is generally good at, like, wanting to make sure everyone feels okay, but sometimes you're not always good at detecting it naturally. Like, you might say something and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you by that. Would you say that that happens more frequently than, like, detecting the vibe of the room?
I would say that while that happens, it usually happens with people I'm really close with, so my guard's already down very much, so I feel like I'm more free-flowing with what I'm saying, and I don't have as much of a barrier on my what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. I would say I'm pretty good at detecting the way people are feeling. Especially, I work, like I'm saying, I work in psych, so I kind of, like, I'm always, like, trying to keep in touch with how people are feeling, although I would say sometimes I have a harder time with, while I do want to empathize with what they're feeling, sometimes I have difficulty thinking of how would they want me to address them when they're feeling this way, because I try relating it to how I want to feel, but then I have to take into account, I'm like, this is not how everyone's going to want to be addressed.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. That's, like, because I was going to use an example, because I know, like, for example, when I cry, while I do like people being there for me, I really don't like people asking questions or trying to talk to me while it's happening. I'd rather them just be there as a presence and just comfort me rather than try to talk me through it. But I understand that some people, it's the other way around, like, they need someone there to, like, try helping them calm down and, like, rationalize through it and get over the emotional barrier they're having. But I don't like people to bring attention to me. I'm just like, give me one person who gives me a hug, like, one time, and then get out of there, because I need to handle this myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I said that once we got onto your third function, that would be when your questions about, like, is that an acceptable answer would make more sense.
Okay.
So your third function, which is my second, so not too far off,
okay,
is extroverted thinking.
Yes.
Now, this is the third function, so that means it's okay, it could be better, but, like, when you do decide to use it, it's surprisingly effective. And usually, like, if people notice it, they're like, what? I didn't notice that about you.
Yeah.
Like, for my type, it's like, oh, you're secretly a very caring person. Whereas for you, it's like, oh, you secretly actually do have a very logical mind. So, for you, extroverted thinking means you discuss your thoughts out loud. Like, you can't just keep your ideas to yourself. You tend to, like, if you have a thought on how things should proceed, you might be slightly more dogmatic about it. Like, saying, no, this is how it's got to be.
Yeah.
Or, like, writing out something or making an interview like I'm doing right now.
Yeah. I definitely feel that way. The way you described it is, if I were to describe myself as a leader or a follower, 99% of the time I would say leader. I definitely am someone who I like to insert my opinion into things, and I like to take in everyone's side of the story. And I either will propose what I think should happen, or I will back someone up and say, I agree with this person for X, Y, and Z reasons, and I think we should do this because of this. I've been a leader in a lot of roles, and I feel like it's something that comes naturally to me. And I feel in that way, too, it helps me to impact more people in hopefully a positive manner, which is what I always aim for. But I definitely am a person who I also talk to myself a lot, especially if I'm trying to, like, work things out, and I won't even notice it sometimes, and people go, are you okay? And I just go, yeah, sorry about that, I didn't know I was talking out loud again.
Well, that leads into the bottom function, which is introverted sensing. Now, the bottom function is basically the function that you either try to suppress,
Yeah.
or it's like so underdeveloped you hardly even use it or know that it's there, and that's introverted sensing, which means that your type is known for having a really, really bad memory and also being extremely klutzy because you're not detail-oriented, so therefore your type tends to, like, bump into poles or, like, trip over their own feet, lock their keys in the car, that kind of stuff. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yes, I would say. I definitely am forgetful with a lot of things. Things like, I need to remember to bring this very important thing to where I'm going, and I cannot forget it, and then I get all the way there and I go, yep, that's not there. I one time went skiing, and I forgot snow pants, which is kind of important when you need to go skiing, because all you need to ski is skis and snow pants, so I forgot half of it, so that was great.
Well, don't you also need a coat?
Well, you need a coat and boots, but, you know, I just still laugh at that to this day, that I'm like, wow, I really did that. I really went on that vacation not prepared. It's great.
Well, I mean, I get that way sometimes too, but, like, my type, because it's my top function, means my type has one of the best memories.
Yeah.
And so that can sometimes be a clash between our types. Not necessarily you and me, but, like, with
In
other
general.
ENFPs I've encountered, they, like, tend to be so forgetful. And I'm just like, how could you forget this? For crying out loud, we've been talking about this for months.
Yeah.
Or, like, friends that have known me for years, they'll still say, what's your address again? And it's like, how many times you've been to my house?
Yeah, I definitely have to put reminders in my phone for a lot of things.
And that's where your extroverted thinking comes in. It's to compensate for the lack of sensing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of times, especially if it's a week or two in advance, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to remember this is happening, so I got to put this in there.
Now, low introverted sensing can also mean that you tend to have sort of a disregard for things that are too safe, too easy, or too by the books. So, like, your type tends to be, like, okay with testing the limits of the rules, or saying, like, well, it's just a guideline, really. Or if someone says, like, hey, you want to go to the same spot where we always go? You'll say, let's go somewhere different. Let's go on an adventure.
So, that's really interesting. I'm very torn with how I feel about that, because I definitely, growing up and still to this day, am a very, we must follow the rules and the rules must be followed type person. Although I think as I've become more rational, I think I've become more, you know, we need to follow this rule, but I don't agree with this rule at all. I'm going to try fighting it with the person who made it. Because I've definitely done that in a couple circumstances. I have become more of a type of person where I'm like, you know what, I've already done that before, I want to do something different, because, I mean, you can't have the thing you've had before, and, like, yeah, it can be good, but what if you find something better? Which is now more so the mentality I've been having.
So, thinking about the possibilities.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, but then what it will actually be, I don't know, because then I can't make a decision about what I want to do. I just say, you know, I want to do something different. But what is that different? You know, a great question, because I don't know.
Well, from what I've heard, ENFPs have a tendency to, how do I word this? Like, one of the things they hate the most is being in a cage. They don't like ruts. They don't like to be confined. They want to be free and expressive.
I like having... So while I do like having a schedule, I don't like having a schedule where I do the same thing every day. It's kind of why I feel like why I felt that I would be good going into medicine, because while it can be the same type of schedule, you meet so many different people through the process, and it's also very different day by day of what you do and what you see, that there's some excitement in it. I'm a very energetic, on the go type person. Like, I have to be doing something at all times, or else I'm not happy if I'm not being productive, or what I consider productive, because my type of productivity is hanging out with friends, and I'm just like, I have social interaction, this is productive. So whatever my consideration of productivity is, I need to be doing it at all times, or else
So that's why ENFPs tend to be classified as lazy on occasion.
So I would say with work and with school, I am very productive and very good. But if you did not give me anything structured to do, I am so good at failing not to do the things on my to-do list. Like, for example, I was supposed to do a lot of things this morning, and I didn't do half of them because I was watching Netflix instead. And I was like, wait a second, I should be doing things. And that's how my morning went.
Okay. Well, you haven't really shocked me with any of your answers yet. Your type is my favorite type. I don't know if I told you that.
That's great to know.
I don't know, opposites or something like that. So, I'm going to ask you two very difficult questions,
Okay.
and I'm going to see how you can handle them.
Oh, jeez.
So, first off, a lot of people think that their opposite type is the type that has the opposite letters, which would be me. You and I have completely opposite letters, ISTJ,
Yeah.
ENFP. However, your actual hardest type to figure out is always the type that has the same middle letters, but different first and last. So your enigma type is the INFJ. Now, do you know of any INFJs, and can you see how they can be, like, really hard to figure out?
I don't know if there's any INFJs, but I will say I consider myself to be kind of like a social butterfly, where I feel like I can get along with a lot of different people. But
Wait.
What?
I'm sorry. I got it mixed up.
Oh, that's okay.
Minor dyslexia. It's if you have the same first and last letters, but different middle letters.
Oh, so an
ESTP.
ESTP.
Yeah. So what do you
Ooh.
think about ESTPs? They would be your enigma type.
Um,
Because INFJs are actually supposed to be like your most compatible.
Huh.
But ESTPs actually have a completely reversed function stack, and also
Yeah.
all of the extrovert introvert is like swapped. So like they would have extroverted sensing as opposed to your introverted sensing, as opposed to you being more like internalized facts. They're more like learning it as they go.
yeah. I would say while I don't know if I know anyone with that type, because I feel like I only know.
Well, Han Solo's an
friends.
ESTP if you've ever watched Star Wars. So how do you think you'd get along with him?
I don't know. In that case, in this sense, I was gonna say kind of people with that personality that might be more serious in nature and not willing to joke to relieve tension type people. I will say I get along with a lot of people, but those are the type of people I have a super hard time having conversations with or doing anything around, because it's just so clear that our personality styles are not compatible, and working through any problems or situations is just tragic. There's definitely been some people that no matter how much I try communicating with them, I just don't understand where they're coming from, or which is something I value, is trying to empathize with them to get why they're acting a certain way. But there's a few people where I just can't even understand. I'm just like, you know what? I can't even work with you because I don't agree with your actions, and I don't even know or can't understand why you're acting
Well,
like
ESTPs
this.
really hate like imagination and far-fetching stuff. They're always about like what's realistic and what's tangible. So like if you were to go to an abstract museum with them, they would be bored out of their mind.
Yeah.
And they'd be like complaining the whole time, like, why'd you take me here? And you'd be like, but it's so much fun, look at all the scribbles.
Yeah, it's definitely those type of people that also, the just like sense of optimism is not there. It's just like a lot of dwelling on things instead of trying to look on the positive, especially negative situations. Just really not making light of anything and trying to deal with that. I'm like, you know what? I have enough to deal with. I don't need this added complaining that's really not doing anything for me right now. So we can either choose to not focus on that or just not interact. These are our options, because I like to associate with people who I feel don't bring me down, and those type of people who really don't care to try changing their line of thinking to where they aren't. Some people just kind of almost act like they want to bring people down, which is not something I'm down for. Or making, like, for example, like making fun of other people for their own reward and to get attention. I'm just like, no, this is not what I stand for. I guess in like some deep way, I see why you're doing this, because you want that attention, but this is also not what I stand for, and I'm not okay with this. And I'm sorry, but you are bringing me down and other people down with you, so I'm gonna get off the sinking ship because I don't want to be part of this.
Right, you don't like burning bridges.
Oh, no.
So, I'm going to make this the last question, because I don't know if you've noticed, but we've actually gone over 30 minutes on this interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hot dog.
So, regarding my type, which is same functions, reverse order.
Yeah.
How would you say, have you met any other people that are my type? And if not, how would you say we get along / clash with the opposite functions? Most of the people that are ISTJs would be like the Miles. Well, you don't play Phoenix, right? Do you? George Washington was an ISTJ. Who would you know? Spock from Star Trek. I don't know if you've ever watched that.
I watched it a couple times.
Well, usually ISTJs are like usually the detectives, the cops, the factual people.
Yeah.
The ones that are like by the books.
Yeah.
Got to do things dogmatically. So how do you get along with those types of people?
So I would say a lot of the times I've met people that really fit that personality type, it's been through academia or through classes, academics. Because I would say a lot of people who are intelligent and really radiate intelligence, like you see them and they say something, you go, yeah, that person's smart without a doubt. They don't even have to prove themselves. I think I've worked really well with those type of people, because like I was saying, while I have been a little bit more questioning of rules and systems, I do like to follow the rules if they are in place, and I feel like that's something we definitely agree on. I think while I tend to be really goofy in my ways, I do like that search of knowledge, and I really like discussing knowledgeable things and learning new things with that type of personality style. And I think it's really interesting just getting to know each other in that type of sense, because I like to learn from people who I would say in certain ways, like personality-wise, or the way like they look at some things that are like different, and I'm like, I want to know why you come from that point of view, because I always think that's really interesting and goes along with my desire to be more empathetic, because I feel like the more I learn about other people's point of view, the more it might be easier to see people I met for the first time why they might feel a certain way, even though I don't know everything there is going on beyond what I see. I think it's just really interesting thriving in differences. I think trying to stay around the people that are the exact same as you, well, I guess it can be really fulfilling. It's more interesting if you find some things that you have a difference on, and just sharing those opinions with one another.
So you think that when you first met me and saw how very different we were, was that at first annoying and then you gradually got used to it, or do you still enjoy it?
I still enjoy it. I didn't think it was annoying at all. At least every single person I've ever met, I always think everyone's very different from me. Even if I say, like, I had a friend in high school who people would get us confused all the time because we acted so similar. It was so goofy. But I think what was the most interesting was talking about and learning the differences between us and how that made us individualistic. And I think it's really interesting, while being able to find those commonalities and really thrive off of them, still learning about each other in the different ways and finding their key traits that make them who they are. Because one of your key traits is, like, you were very, very kind, and all of your actions are basically because you mean well, and you mean well for yourself. And that's very important in a person, and definitely all the people I surround myself with, I do like to recognize those key traits in them, and recognize, in the sense of being empathetic, of their actions radiate off those key traits that they have. And while I might not understand their actions, I'm like, okay, if I think about them as a person, I can see why they thought this was the best action in this moment that they meant well with, if that makes any sense.
I think so. Basically, it seems like what you're saying is that, in this case, it's a good thing that you have low sensing, because you're not compartmentalizing, saying like, oh dear, he's an ISTJ, so he's going to be a stick in the mud. You sort of look for your own things that you find desirable and just focus on that.
Yeah, I really don't. Whenever I hear people, like, labeling each other, I don't really like to work off of that. I more so like to learn about the person themselves. I think it's important not to so closely associate people with labels, which, I mean, as your personality type, you might feel the exact opposite way, because it compartmentalizes things more. But I, in that sense, like to know that about a person, and yes, that's one aspect of them.
Well,
but
for
me,
that's how I get to know the person. Is first I figure out what type they are, and then it helps me, like, know, okay, this person is not going to communicate like I do, so let me try breaking it down to this level.
Yeah.
I'm not good at being able to figure out stuff on the spot.
Yeah.
And that's why my friend Kara, who's an INFJ, who you guys have seen plenty of times on this channel, she and I had a heck of a time trying to even figure out how to say hello to each other. But once I figured out that she was INFJ, that really helped a lot, because INFJs are my enigma types, so I studied really hard. I'm like, how do they feel on things? How do they handle emotions? How do they handle facts? And it was a tough process, but it was a rewarding one.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't have had a compartmentalized mind, I wouldn't have thought, okay, let's put her brain into their pieces and go from there.
Yeah.
Now I'll just have to ask her how she did it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we're about to go over the 40-minute mark, which, that's okay. The audience knows that extroverts have a lot to say, so...
Sorry, this is exactly what I did in med school interviews. I never know how long they want the questions to be answered for, so I keep going, and I'll notice it's been like 10 minutes. I'm like, do you want me to wrap this up? Like, I can keep going, but I don't think you want me to answer.
No, that's okay. I
longer.
Interviewed an ENTJ, and we had an interview that was only slightly shorter than this. So
oh my gosh.
They do have a lot to say. So, do you have any closing thoughts you want to give to the audience?
I guess... Thank you for this interview today. This was actually a lot of fun. I really liked talking about all of these things, because I haven't looked over my Myers-Briggs in a really long time. So I'm like, I remember when I first tested them, like, this seems about right. But when you kept bringing things up, I'm like, I don't remember reading that, but I remember that resonates with me.
Well, after this interview is over, I'll have to tell you what the P represents in the ENFP, because we didn't even get to that.
Yikes. I didn't even realize that. I thought we covered everything. Well, apparently not,
Well, we covered the essentials.
There we go.
Alright, well, with that, audience, thank you very much for watching. Again, this is Allison.
Howdy.
Don't know if she'll be around much, but hopefully I'll get her to talk a few more times. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.
Bye.